This is Brett.
And this is Sean.
And this is Bonus BS.
Bonus BS, a supplemental show to Gaming and BS podcast where we cover interviews and other such topics not found in our weekly episodes. Enjoy. Let me introduce a weird guy eating ice cream in rain boots. That's what it says on his website. He started his career in RPGs over 20 years ago. He's written for Ex Libris Nocturnus, a White Wolf web zine fan site. Started his own company, Third Eye Games, in 2008, which has produced titles like Apocalypse Prevention Inc., Wu Zing, The Ninja Crusade, Part-Time Gods, Mermaid Adventures, Amp Year 1, and The Camp Myth, the RPG. He's even had his own podcast. As of March 7th, 2017, he has launched a Kickstarter for his new venture, Pip System Core Book, a system 5 years in the making. Allow us to introduce Eloy Lasanta. Yay, Eloy.
Thanks, guys. Wow, that was a really good introduction.
Did we miss anything?
I've created other games since that intro was written, apparently. So, yeah.
Feel free. Fill in the blanks.
Let's see.
What else have you got?
Infestation, an RPG of bugs and heroes. I don't know if you mentioned Part-Time Gods, but Part-Time Gods.
Oh, Part-Time Gods. That's actually how I got connected with anything you did, was because Phil and Chris were doing Part-Time Gods of Fate, and I'm like, well, I can support this thing. Like, okay, this Eloy guy, let's see what Eloy's about. I'll go, oh, whoa, this looks pretty damn cool. So that's how I found out who you were. So that's pretty cool.
Well, awesome. And in the last game I released, it was like a little one. It was a game where I just kind of wanted to sit down, and it had been a while since I had just sat down and just wrote a game myself, just from beginning to end. And I wrote it. It's called Sins of the Father, which is the latest one that was released last year. So a couple more.
Very cool.
But it was a really good intro.
I try really hard. So thanks for joining us, Eloy. We appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on.
So as Sean said, we've got a Kickstarter going. We are recording this on March 8th. You have been live now for a day.
Yeah.
You have done a number of Kickstarters, I think 17, if I do my math here right. I.e., I'm looking at Kickstarter and it tells me the number, which is good for Brett because Brett sucks at math. So one of the cool things about Eloy Lasanta Third Eye Games Kickstarter is going to, if it's funded, it will produce. We have a track record of success and so on and so forth within that space, which Sean and I we're not as nasty as some people are on the failed Kickstarter perspective, but that irritates the shit out of me when I see something coming in, always late and always 1,000 excuses. But I gotta hand it to you, man. That's not your rep in the Kickstarter world, and for game design to have a good rep in Kickstarter, that's not easy to get. So congrats. That's hard to do.
Thank you. I mean, and it is kind of a rep thing. I put a lot of pressure on myself to produce these kind of things and give realistic projections on the ETAs and deliveries and whatnot. So if you don't, like, it only takes one wrong step and then you have the entire community going, what the hell's wrong with this guy? So really don't want that to happen.
So for this one, it's Pip System and it's the core. And so my take on it, you gave us some homework, so we did some reading on it, and I read this and went, this is like a super cool, what I would call like a universal system. This is my easier version of GURPS that made me really happy. I read this and the stuff you gave me, I'm like, this is really cool. I have kids, my kids love gaming, and I've got friends who love gaming that are intimidated by some of the more complicated trad games, and even some of the, as Phil lovingly calls them, the hippie small book games. Sometimes that even freaks people out. But, so anyway, tell us more about the Pip system. How does this sucker work?
So I would say that the higher level pitch is kind of what you just said. The game was originally designed to be simplistic enough for kids to pick it up and be able to play it. And I had my first game for using the original Pip system was Mermaid Adventures. I had a lot of kids pick that game up, and some of them were the families were buying it and then running it with their kids as a way to introduce their kids. Others were the kids just like the illustrations, and then eventually read the book and absorbed it, and then they would all play. And then I even had some kids who were running the game for their families. So that's the kind of game that I designed there. One that was universally applicable to what I call family style RPGs, where everybody, no matter the level of, however, everybody, no matter how long you've been role playing, can jump into this game and really, really get it. So the question though that you said was, how does it work?
Yeah,
So,
like the core mechanic, basically. I want to know, because from my perspective, if I have a core mechanic that I can grok right out of the gate, I'm good. If there's a side mechanic or a little add-on something, I can either ignore it. But if my core mechanic carries me through 90% of my life, I'm fine. So that's what I'm looking for.
Exactly. Well, and the core mechanic for this is actually pretty simple. There's a whole lot of other things that can affect it, but when you get down to it, you have a certain number of positive dice and you have a certain number of negative dice. For simplicity, we use black and white in the descriptions and in the write-ups for the system itself, but it can really be any two colors: red and green, blue and yellow, whatever. But the positive dice are your character's skills, their special qualities, their special magic abilities, anything that they have, those are going to end up giving you your pool of positive dice. And then your negative dice is whatever the GM tells you is the difficulty for the challenge, or if the opposing person has armor, or if they have qualities that make it harder for you to do things, and then that becomes your black pool. Then you take your white pool and your black pool and you roll it together, and you're trying to get more successes, a success is a 4, 5, or a 6, on your positive dice than on your negative dice. And that is,
and it's all these are all player facing die rolls, right? Am I correct?
Correct.
The pool is completely okay.
Yeah, the player rolls everything. And what that was created to do was to give the younger players agency. It wasn't me rolling against them. It was them rolling to see whether it was a success or not. So they're kind of in control of what's happening, as opposed to me kind of dictating what happens.
I've really gotten into I've read Cypher System. I've played Gumshoe for a number of times. I even picked up the Black Hack, little indie D&D-esque game, and that's all player-facing die rolls too.
Mm-hmm.
And but that was one of the things that when I read the information that you gave Sean and I went, oh, cool, player-facing dice. Because for me, if nothing else, then it does take away. I'm giving you difficulties. I'm maybe handing you some black dice going, here's 2 more for you, Eloy. Oh, exactly. Curses, I've got 2 more dice. But it's still in my hands, because I'm the one rolling them. So then you get to feel like, oh, I botched it. Oh, the gods hate me tonight, or whatever the case is. So
exactly.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
Not only that, but from a visual standpoint, when you have a hand, like you have the dice in your hand, you can look at your dice and see your odds, which is actually one of the really cool visual things. Again, that it makes it really easy for new players and young players to kind of pick up, because they say, well, I have 4 white dice and I have 2 black dice. That means I have a really good chance of making this. Or, if I have 4 black dice and 2 white dice, and, ooh, this is going to be a challenge, but I could still do it, and it creates that, the visual recognition of what your odds are, which, is a really, really fun thing for the flow of the game.
The thing I like about that as well, to me, is that I joked at the beginning I suck at math, but even if you're doing math by, you take a Savage Worlds game, which is actually pretty fast, furious, and fun, as they say, right? But you're still doing some math, like, oh, did I ace? Did I explode? Does it do it on this? Does it do it on that? And just, this is like, here's some dice. I am either adding or subtracting from a die pool. Is visually very simple. How many dice do you have in front of you? I've got 6. Oh, wait, you forgot this black die. Oh, you forgot your white die. That's really fast, easy math that can be done. And I think, how do I say this? I think it's not overly simplistic. We're like, oh, it's clearly a kid's game. Brett and Sean would never play this with serious gamers. I think there's enough meat to it that you could do. There's a lot of really cool stuff that can be done with this. So yeah. The thing that turned me off initially when I heard Phil and Chris, I'm like, oh, it's a kids basing. My kids can play games. Do they really need this? And then I read what you had, and I started looking through the Kickstarter, and I'm like, I could run this with my grown-up boys and girls gaming group, and we would have a hell of a good time.
Yeah,
So
that's the approach of the new core book, because the original games, they were written at a lower level. They were written to be more simplistic. But as the years have gone by, we've come out with two other games, Camp Myth the RPG and Infestation, an RPG of Bugs and Heroes. And each time that we came out with another game, we changed things, we tweaked things, we added things. And even with this newest edition, we've taken that and we've added even more to it now. So it really does make it more of a universal system that you can use to pretty much run anything, which I'm very, very proud of.
So with the Kickstarter, we've got the core book. So if I just go in and say, hey, you know what, I want $15. I'm in. I get the core book. I can do POD, print on demand at cost. Great. But then we talk about core books plus settings. So what have you got? What have you got planned right now for settings, and kind of what's how do I say this? What's already set for settings, and what's kind of a stretch goal for settings? I'm interested in that. So,
so the two settings that we have currently going are conversions of the settings that already exist, and that is the one for Mermaid Adventures, which we're going to take and we're going to beef up. And then also the one for Infestation and RPG of Bugs and Heroes that we're also going to take and remodel and beef up. The original versions of those games were both really, really good, but now we're going to be converting them to the new core system, as well as just adding more information about the world and about the player options and whatnot, because we have had a lot of people who were always wondering about that sort of stuff whenever they would play the game. So those are the two established settings that are part of the Kickstarter from the get-go. But we have a number of really awesome settings. And I think that one of the things, too, I want to point out is when I say settings and I'm saying like a meaty setting, I'm saying like anywhere from 80 to 120 pages of basically another book. It's not like, hey, here's 5 pages on how to run it doing this. Here's 5 pages to run it doing that.
These aren't trope, or how do I say, it's not genre or cliche guidelines, if you will, right? It's not like, hey, here's a fantasy thing. No, here's a fantasy setting.
Right. It's not necessarily a hack. It is a full-blown setting using the core rules. So we have a few others. The first new setting that's up on the chopping block for stretch goals is A Kid's Guide to Monster Hunting, which is actually very heavily inspired by Monster Squad and the Goonies and stuff like that, where you're playing kids, but you're going up against these these huge odds of, going on huge adventures, fighting nasty monsters because, the adults are off doing adult things. So you have to kind of handle it yourself. Stranger Things that's a very popular show right now. And that would be something you could run very easily using A Kid's Guide to Monster Hunting. So that's the first one. We have others, Super Sentai, which is going to be like a Power Rangers-esque type RPG that we're writing up for it as well. That one's actually like 80% done. I've talked with Andy Hopp from Mother Oath Creations for his game called Lowlife, Rise of the Lowly. And I've actually talked him into letting us license that and create a PIP system version of that game. If you haven't played that game, it's whacked out crazy. It's so fun.
I have seen I've not played it. I've seen that on the Google Pluses and the Facebook. Gamers like, oh my God, I played Lowlife. That was such a great goddamn time. I'm like, what the hell? So I dug in a little bit. I'm like, that seems so weird and crazy. I have to try that at some point. That has to be tried. That's very cool. Is there anything that you have? So I hesitate to say kids because I think your earlier statement of family friendly, right? It's that thing that I can sit down with a rule system that's easy to grok for everybody in the house. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be Brett's natural dark and gritty predilections where I'm always like, oh my God, there's dead babies and horrible things going on, in this world, because that'll make my daughter cry. I don't want to make my 8-year-old cry. But like I said, though, it feels like something, if I sat Sean and the guys down and said, hey, we're going to play this, we could take it, I hesitate to say, quote unquote, more adult, but it feels like it's something that I could, a rules light, fast resolution system, I could do a Cthulhu type game with. I could do something like a horror or a something along those lines. Do you envision that being something that you would take it, or would that be something you would maybe hand to somebody else to do?
No, that's definitely somewhere where I want to take it. There's one of the other settings that I have planned for it is called Killing Earth, and it's going to be a post-apocalyptic horror game that I'm going to be using the pip system to create. Because it's going to be kind of a reflection of this isn't just for kids, and it was only it was originally designed for with kids in mind, but it's become something much bigger and more universal since then. And I think that that's kind of the thing is when you say, yes, this is the system that we used for, Mermaid Adventures, people go, oh, so it's a kids thing. And yeah, kids get it and they understand it and it's easy for them to play it, but that doesn't make it necessarily only for kids. It's for everybody. That's why I don't say it's a kids RPG. I say it's a family style RPG. It's for everybody.
Yeah, because if you say post-apocalyptic horror, I'm like, yeah, that's not something you teach the kindergartner. That one, that's a little rough, bugs fighting other bugs, or something along those lines. Yeah, mermaids. Yeah, I could see that. But then, hey, kids, let's go over here in this Mad Max style wasteland. That's a little rough.
Pretty
a little
much
rough for the kids. But that's cool because so I guess my perspective would be that it's always easy to hear people, well, it's for kids, but it could be used for this. And I'm like, okay, I could see it could. So when I read it, I'm like, yes, absolutely it can. It totally makes sense to me based on what you've shared with Sean and I. And hearing you say that, yes, Brett, I've already planned to do that type of thing with it and show you and the gaming community at large that, no, dude, we can totally do this. Mm-hmm. If you and your gamer groups, you got that person who wants to play, this crazy badass woman in a post-apocalyptic world, you can do that with the pip system. That's really cool.
And the fun thing about the idea behind having a universal thing, like I come from a background of like riffs and stuff like that. So the idea of being able to take the pip system and, basically being able to make it a universal system so that if you really wanted to, you could play, if you're playing post-apocalyptic thing and somebody says, well, can I be a mermaid? Sure, you can. The rules are the same. The rules are there. You can mix the child monster hunter with the post-apocalyptic survivor with a mermaid with a bug, and it would all work and flow the same way. I mean, they'd have different powers and different abilities and probably stuff like that. That would be wonky together, but it would be fun. But everybody would understand how everything works at least. And that's my goal here, is to kind of give a number of different experiences that people can take. And it's not just the pip system just does one thing. It's the pip system can do this, it can do that, it can do this, and I will happily create as many games as I can for the pip system. But we did actually also, create a licensing framework so that if other people do have ideas, cool, they can say, hey, Eloy, I would like to use the pip system for this type of game. What do you think? And then I will help them and I'll guide them through it. And we can, let's get that game out. As many games as we can get out using the pip system, it just makes it a stronger core system than at that point.
One of the things that when Sean read the homework before I did, so he gets an A+, I get a B. And one of the things he came to me and says, "Hey Brett, this is the core mechanic." He just shot it to me in a quick IM. It was like a 2-sentence instant message over Google. I'm like, well, that's pretty freaking cool. The first thing that hit me was, oh, it's a die pool. Is there a limit? Because do I have the Shadowrun salad bowl of dice where my die pool is 70 dice? Shuka. All right, we'll be here for a while. I just shot a semi-auto weapon. So I read through it, and if I missed it, I'm a dumbass. But what do you, from just a raw mechanics perspective, should I be expecting to hold anywhere from 3 dice in my hand to 50? Is there a top end, bottom end? Is there a logical break?
I mean, basically, with your average roll, you're probably going to roll anywhere from 3 to 6 dice on your average roll. Your skills go up from 1 to 5. Your qualities go 1 to 5. So if you have a maxed out skill and a maxed out quality, then you're looking at 10 dice. But that's if you're maxed out.
That's manageable, though.
But that's if you're maxed out. Sometimes your weapons, your gear, Other things might give you a couple of additional dice, but like I would say the most anybody would probably roll would be 15 dice of positive dice, and then obviously then with whatever the challenge dice would be at that point. So, but not 50. That's excessive.
Okay.
Starting out, you can't have more than 4. Huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, see, that's why Sean gets the A+.
I read this stuff. Hey, but Eloy, talking, because some people will pick up a role playing game and they'll want to page through it, and one of the things that they will base their interest on is the character generation piece, which I thought was really interesting because you've got literally 3 steps. Like it's step 1, step 2, step 3, you're done. And I think it's unique in how it comes to fruition, right? So do you want to briefly touch? I mean, I could read them, but it'd be like 30 seconds worth of info, but right? I mean, step 1, you choose an archetype. Step 2, you choose the skills, and there's a certain amount of points that you have a point pool of 15 that you allocate to your skills, and then qualities of 10 points. And then you have step 3 for random charts, which I think is really cool because that gets into even more of the game itself. Do you want to highlight just character generation and, in brief?
Yeah, totally. So the archetypes are kind of, the building block, like the conceptual thing that you're picking. And the core book actually gives you quite a few. I think we give like 15 or so. And we give anything from politician to sleuth to noble to warrior, performer, magic user, things that are just like, I want somebody who can use magic. Well, then pick magic user, very broad. And what those do is they give you a certain number of starting skills, and they give you a special ability, and they give you a hindrance. And then they also dictate how much physical health you have and versus how much mental health that you have. And that's the first thing. Now, in the core book, it's got more general things, but in books like A Kid's Guide to Monster Hunting, your archetype is the type of kid that you'll be. So you'll pick, the bully kid, the leader, the class clown, the little kid. You'll pick from those archetypes versus, ones from the core book. In Mermaid Adventures, you pick from different merfolk types. So shark folk, eel folk, stuff like that. And those are your archetypes. And what that does is that immediately, you pick your archetype, and that's a lot of it right there, just conceptually for your character. Then you go on to your skills and qualities, and there are, I believe, 14 skills. I'm trying to remember now off the top of my head. I believe there are 14 skills, and you get a certain number of points. I believe it's 15 to spend just on your skills, and then you get 10 points to spend on skill qualities, gear qualities and advanced qualities. So qualities are basically like specialties of what you can do with a certain skill. So for instance, if you had aim, which is your ranged weapons, your ranged combat skill, you could take, a few levels in that, a few ranks in aim, and then you could take a quality of pistols. So anytime you're using a pistol, you would get those extra dice from that quality. So I mean, and it's really that simple. It's pretty easy. Then you have things like, again, so you have quality of skill qualities. You also have advanced qualities, which are kind of like higher level. They're actually kind of akin to the special abilities that you would get with an archetype. So you might get something like you were born magical, so you get extra spells if you're a magic user. You can get one for a hideout that gives you a special place where you can train and do fun stuff. So you can get one that you're rich, which is one of my favorite ones. So there's those sorts of things. Then there are gear qualities, and that's like you have a favorite weapon, you have a cool suit of armor, you have a tricked out vehicle. You might have a companion like a pet or a butler, you could have, there's so many different things that you can kind of, grab and kind of play with in the system. It really gives you a lot to work with. Then,
so go ahead. Go.
No, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, when it comes to archetypes, the one thing that part of my head goes, oh, classes. Why do we always have to have classes in archives? How come it can't be this open, this list of stuff? And then the other part of me goes, because that's hard to do as far as like getting people into it. It takes longer to make a character. So I was curious, as a game designer, do you find that people are responding really well to the archetype / classes / predefined box, if you will? Like, hey, I'm a warrior. I'm a woodsman. Right. I am a magician. I'm a scholar. Are you finding that your fans, that people like your stuff and other, did you do that because that's what the people want, or because, you know what I'm saying?
I did it.
Maybe it's a horrible question.
It was well worded. No, so I do it partially because of kind of what you said, where it kind of makes the flow quicker. It also kind of gives everybody like a starting point. When we're talking about games, the other settings that are really kind of, spot on and specific, like if I say the archetypes are the type of merfolk that you are, and you go shark folk, cool, I now understand that. That means I am half shark. I got it.
Yes.
And it's like that. So, but for this kind of thing, like if you pick the archetype of warrior, for instance, if you were playing in a fantasy setting, that might mean that you are a fighter. If you're playing in a modern setting, that might mean that you're a boxer or bodyguard of some sort. So like you can morph it to kind of become whatever, you need it to be within the context of the game that you're running. And that's how kind of they were written. They were written to be a little bit more universal and flexible within the core book. But for the actual settings, it makes it a little bit more targeted. And basically, because they are such an integral part to the settings, we needed to definitely represent that in the core book as well. Because we want it to flow exactly the same way.
Yeah,
that totally makes sense.
Eloy, like, just to point out an example, I wanted to kind of look at this because of what Brett was mentioning. And you take the archetype, say, for example, if you pick fighter, you could still pick born magical in the advanced qualities, right? There's some prerequisites that you have to meet, which may be a little bit harder with some of those archetypes. So if you pick wizard, you probably hit magic a little bit easier because I think you get 2 points of magic, and born magic requires 4. But that's not to say that you can't pick magic skill, pump that up, and then choose to be born magical as part of the advanced quality. Is that do I have that?
No, you're totally right.
Yeah.
The same way as you could pick magic user as your archetype and then take something like, dual wielder, I'm a magic user, but I also, fight with 2 swords because I'm awesome,
Right. Yeah. No, I think that allows a lot of flexibility in the system, which is what you're getting at. Is great.
Yeah.
No, yeah, because sometimes the archetype or class is like, oh, I'm a fighter, therefore I'm in a very high-walled concrete box. What I'm hearing here is I have a dotted line around me that I can reach out and pull other things into. I can grow that box as I need to, which is a lot more entertaining to me than especially at this level, when you're talking about people, something that's easy, universal. This concept, especially, I could grab anybody. We could say, well, I want to play it in, this type a fantasy setting, but I want to be kind of like a warrior, fighter, wizard. I really like this. Can I do that? Yes, you can. Just follow this path, and there, you're a cross class. You're a warrior. You're a fighter mage. You can do that, and it's not that difficult to do because the system allows you to figure out how to do that and then make it happen. So that's nice. I like that.
So we didn't get all the way through character generation. So step 3, Brett.
Sorry, I'll shut up.
I was still technically kind of in step 2, just mostly because I just wanted to just highlight how many different choices there are with your gear qualities. Because I did mention weapons, armor, companions, and vehicles. There's also tools. There's also traps. So if you wanted to be like that super awesome warrior, then you could give yourself also, you could give yourself like a sword. There's a couple of, we even give examples in the book because we want to make sure that everybody understands how to build, these cool weapons and equipment and stuff. But you could have a short sword of justice, like in the book, which gets the holy quality. which means does extra damage against evil or undead characters. So like that's a really cool thing right there. So you can use not only the skill qualities, but also all of these different gears, the things that your character has, helps to kind of help define them as well, which I really, really like. Step 3, though, is random charts, which, because I'm a fan of random charts myself, it's kind of a thing that I started again with Mermaid Adventures. It was the first game, but we started with, hey, you get to roll randomly to see what your mermaid looks like. Like, do you have red pigtails and claws and shiny rainbow fins, or whatever. I would have players who would buy the book and then would just spend all night making random characters, which is so fun to hear. I had parents who were like, we didn't even actually get to play because they just wanted to make a bunch of characters. So we'll play tomorrow.
That's awesome.
We'll send you stuff. So like it's really fun, and I've always enjoyed that sort of thing anyway. So what we've done is we've kind of split it up into 4 different settings. We've set it up as modern, sci-fi, fantasy, and spooky. So if you wanted to have kind of a horror-ish kind of thing. So what you do is you kind of roll randomly on a few charts. It'll give you some fun items, or maybe like a cool contact that you might have, or an appearance. It basically just gives you a couple of things to kind of incorporate into your character that helps you kind of, again, define kind of who that character is. But I always found that it's more fun to mess around with randomness than to just pick everything yourself.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And then you have the other charts piece, which I thought was even more intriguing.
Yes, that part too. Oh my gosh, we've worked so much on this. So then there's the character connection chart that allows you to kind of roll and see what your relationships are to some of the characters in the group, which is fun. So you might roll that you're siblings, or that one of you owes the other one a favor, or you're married, or stuff like that.
And then there's so the backgrounds is included in that switch. So even when you get into, and then the past, present, and future components was pretty cool, because so the past, you roll a die, which is white, and those are typically positive, maybe, right? Maybe not. And then you have the black die, and then you combine the results of those two to make a multitude of combinations. So if you have 6 results of white and 6 results of black, and you intermix those, what is that? 36 different combinations, right?
I guess that's 36. Yeah.
Is that my math doing that right? But they form a statement when you put them together.
Exactly. And we have the past, present, future kind of setup there. So like if you rolled a 3 and a 4, then you'd have, you got into trouble and the consequences still follow you, but you aim to fix things. So it kind of gives you kind of a place from where you're at. It gives you a place from where you came from, and then you roll for the present to see where you're at, and then you have kind of a future one that you can roll to see where you're going. And obviously, those are all optional things. Actually, honestly, all of the random charts are optional. You don't have to do them, but they just make it so much more fun to make a character using these sorts of cool little random things that you're like, ooh, I can incorporate that into my character now.
The other cool thing I liked about the care gen is when I read it is, sorry, Sean, I'm stepping on you.
Sorry.
Just sit down. Sit down, I'm talking.
Go ahead, Brett.
Is that it's fast. I don't see this. I could see sitting down with Sean and I in a group of gamers as adults, or even with my kids or something, and we can crank out some characters pretty damn quick. It's not difficult. There's not a lot. Yeah, there's some charts and some randomness to it, but it's not like this huge, this is going to be a multiple hour, how do I pick the right feats and skills and map everything back and forth. This is going to be pretty quick. We can sit down, make characters, and be playing same night. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
That's very intriguing to me.
I run a lot of my Gen Con sessions whenever I run anything PIP system at the convention. A lot of the time, if we have time, obviously, I'll just sit down with the players and we'll just make characters right there. because it gives them more, because it's the kind of game where it doesn't take a long time to do, so it doesn't impede on the rest of the session. If you block 4 hours, you can take 15 minutes and make characters real quick, and then you still have 3 hours and 45 minutes to actually play. So
nice.
One thing
Sean, I stepped on you. Your turn.
Yeah, no. One thing I wanted to mention too with the characters. So you have physical health and mental health.
Yes,
and I thought it was interesting where there's a part of mental health that you can, I think, kind of you heal yourself. I don't know. You know what I'm getting at, Eloy? Where you're grunting. Is it the pain piece? Right. So if you grunt, you can. I believe, like, if you yell out something out of pain, you can recover to physical health or to mental health, if I'm not mistaken.
There's that one, the anger management.
Yes. Anger management. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yes. So there's the anger management. Basically, we have a whole healing section in the book of just different ways that you might be able to heal, like magic or getting yourself bandaged, getting real medical treatment, taking a nap, meditation, stuff like that. But one of them is anger management. And it's basically just like if you are taking mental damage, and mental damage is like you're getting confused, you are getting frustrated with stuff. People are making, if they're making fun of you, or like if you're, hurting socially, you're going to take mental damage from that. And basically the anger management way of healing is just like, you just let out a rage-filled scream, and you heal 2 points. So it's,
I read that. I'm like,
obviously,
yeah, that'd be awesome. And he's just like, oh, you yell out in rage. You're like, I'm good now. Or better.
It's all good. I'm good. I got two back. We can go back in, guys.
I cannot tell you how that mimics real life, Eloy. Like, that is just amazing.
Exactly. I've had to do that every so often as well. I mean,
right?
But it is because, and it is a fun thing because other games don't really have that as an aspect of healing. They don't be, because it's mentally cathartic to sometimes just yell, and just get it out.
And I do like the other one is soaking bath. That's another good one too.
Oh yeah,
good long soak in a tub or hot springs can soothe even the sorest of muscles. I read that one. Oh, that's pretty cool. I like that.
That Brett can relate to that because that's how he
a little bit. That's how I went.
Yeah, a little Epsom salts, a little bubble bath, and Brett's like a new guy.
So the other thing, Eloy, that I really like about this, and that I liked about Part-Time Gods and such, is there's the focus on the role-playing aspect of it. We all joke it's ROLE, not ROLL, ha ha ha. But everything within the game is built. Game Master can say, "Wow, that was really well described here." It's in there. It's specifically called out that, hey, you can add, subtract dice and do these things based on role-playing situations,
right?
And that I think is really important. It's not just like, oh yeah, you could do this thing, move on. Everything that you gave us to read through, it was littered throughout it. Even those things like cathartic yelling and that type of thing. It just screams as great role-playing. Here's your ticket. Go role-play this thing. This is really cool. Can I bother you? No, I'm in a bath. Piss off. I'm going to go take a bath. What happened to the mage? He's taking a bath. There's nothing you can do about it. Leave, Magnus the Mighty. She's off there. She's taking a bath. He's over there relaxing in an easy chair. Nothing you can do about it. And the mages are taking a rest. That just screams role-playing ideas to me. And that was one of the things that really captured me when I read it. So that was really good work.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, it's kind of the way that I like to write my role-playing games. Like some people, they like games where there is, a lot of number crunching and, a lot of like, you can do this, you cannot do that. Whereas I like mine to be more, you can do that, but is that something you want to do? It's like, why do you want to do that? It make, kind of ask those questions and kind of give you a better framework to kind of understand the character as opposed to like knowing the powers and a list of equipment and stuff like that. Everything that you select for a pip system character should reflect that character. Again, even like if you pick that sword, like you spend points on that sword, so there has to be a reason for your character to have wanted that sword to be part of the build. So if you have a sword, the sword of justice that does damage to undead and stuff, well, then let's build that into the character. Let's see what we can do with that. That you just told me what you want to be doing with that character is you want to be going and fighting undead and evil things. Otherwise, why would you pick that sword otherwise?
Yeah, and any game master worth his or her salt's going to see that and go, oh, I better have a couple of skeletons and a zombie or two in here because we got an undead killing team. Let's go. That's what we're here for. All right.
Yeah, that would be like the worst GM ever if it was just like, it's like you have a sword of fighting the unholy. Well, you're going to go to the land of the fairies now. Is there anything undead there? No, nothing.
No. Happy goblins, lots of happy goblins drinking tea. Great. Social encounters all day long. You bastard. That's what that would be. Sean, do you have any more questions for him?
I just have to say though, when I'm looking at a lot of the details, like the gear and the properties of the gear, like armor, you have the different, it could be adaptive, biological, bulletproof, and then you have what that means mechanically, right? And then I look at like the character archetypes and the skills and the backgrounds and the connections. The one thing that really kind of hits home with me, Eloy, is you could almost, given your open license or you're open to licensing it, I could see somebody sitting down and skinning this really well into like, hey, I'm going to do a sci-fi version or skin that, for lack of better words, the fiasco play sets, right? You have the core rules. So, hey, I'm going to do science fiction. So I'm going to pick and implement my own archetypes, or even maybe they're special races that fit.
Right. If it's a sci-fi game, right. Yeah, it could be like a species kind of thing, alien species.
Yes. And then but you could still use all the properties of the core system to be able to translate that very easily. Like you don't have to come up with and reinvent the wheel with your system. Now, other people may say the same thing with other systems, but I don't see that translates really well at I guess some could argue yes or no, but I think yours is really aligns well with that, in my opinion.
Well, thank you. One of the things I've actually done two games where I have translated a game that I wrote originally over to another system. We did it once with API, Apocalypse Prevention Inc., and we translated it over to Savage Worlds. And we also did Part-Time Gods over into Part-Time Gods of Fate, converting it to Fate Core. In both of those, it took a long time to get it right and to balance things and to make it really fit, not only to fit the new system, but then to also make sure that it still felt like the original game. Because I think that's also, those systems specifically, they do a certain thing. And you don't want to lose the game within the system. And what I've tried to do here with the PIP system is really just try to give as universal a set of rules as you can so that you really can do just about anything with it. And that's the hope. And again, that's why the book has a bunch of different play styles in it. And here's how you would run it for this or for that or for this. And I'm coming out with a bunch of different setting books. So I'll show you that you can run it in a bunch of different ways. So it is one of those things that, again, it's like you might just say, well, why do I need another, universal system? And I'm sure some people will say that, but I will say that, if you were going to add another, this one would be the one. Like it's really, really good. And obviously my opinion is biased there.
Well, I'll tell you, man, I've been doing this since I'm 40. I'll be 44 pretty soon. I've been doing this in third grade, and of the number of universal systems read, GURPS, Hero System, all these other ones that have purported to be such, this is the most elegant one I've seen. It is simple. It is fast. Now, granted, Sean and I haven't seen like all the final blah blah blah, but just what Eloy gave us to read through, I'm like, this is so on point, man. I mean, congratulations. I mean, I'm dead serious. This thing is elegant. And it flows, and I don't see why you wouldn't want to have this. I mean, you look at the Kickstarter and like for $15 you get the PDF of the game. Come on. It's I mean, just to pimp that for you one more time. I mean, at $15 you get the game, for God's sakes. It's the core system. I like Cypher, I like some of these other universals, but I'll tell you, man, this thing it's fast, it's easy. And unless it plays like a brick, which I can't see it doing, this is going to be a game that you're going to want to pull out. I mean, this is something that it's going to be fast. If you can make characters on the fly, you can venture immediately that night, and it can. I don't see why it couldn't do everything Eloy is saying. This is really well done. So, congrats, man. This is nice.
So, Eloy, you've got the Kickstarter. So, what is the game? You've provided us some insight into a lot of pieces of the game. So, thank you for that. But so, I mean, this thing is almost fully baked. So, what is it that you need money for the Kickstarter besides obviously producing it? How far is that along, and what are you looking at as far as a lot of that funding going towards?
Okay, so the initial funding goal is 3,000, and that's basically for me to pay the writers for what they've written. We had an amazing team of game designers who really like cranked this out and made it amazing. So we have that, and then we have basically that's about $2,000 to pay everybody, and then there's about $1,000 that we need in additional art. I've been able to get some of the art out of my own, out of my pocket, out of, Third Eye Games stores, of wealth that we have here. But we've gotten a bunch of the art already, but we need about another $1,000 worth of art. And then it's pretty much done. Like, that's actually the fun part about this is I put a lot of effort into it right up front, so that we could have it near completion, when we launched the Kickstarter. So, like, I would say when the Kickstarter ends, I would say maybe a month before the PDF will be ready.
Nice.
As opposed to waiting a year or whatever. Like, it'll be really, really fast, because we've already done a lot of the work at this point.
That's one thing Sean and I have talked about, I think, on the mics as well as plenty of times off the mics, is like, God damn it, if you're going to run a Kickstarter, you should be pretty close. I mean, especially when you're talking games, it helps me as a potential backer go, oh, you're that close? Well, all right, then that's worth my 15. You know what? Maybe I'll bump it up to 45 or something, because it's right there. Yeah. I'm not thinking that I'm going to give you X number of dollars and maybe I'll see it in a year. No, it's like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Not only do we have the history of success, but we also have the fact that it's damn near done right now. So that is really, really cool. That says a lot.
And with that 15, see, the way that I structured this Kickstarter too, I structured it slightly different than I have my Kickstarters in the past, where I've had PDFs and I've had physical copies available and whatnot. For this Kickstarter, I wanted to try something different, and it actually, in an effort to take a lot of the pressure off of myself and of the backers. So the tiers themselves are really just for the PDFs. You either get the core book PDF, or you get the core book PDF and one setting, or the core book PDF and two settings. When we start unlocking some of the other settings, I'll add more tiers for 3 settings and whatnot. But the cool thing about it is that what you get is you get the PDF. And then through DriveThruRPG, which is where I'm partnering, you'll get a code that says you can also get the print book for cost. And we're going to have a soft cover and a hardcover version available, which means you get to choose which one you want then at that point. And depending upon which one you pick, it'll cost you anywhere from $5 to $10 additional. Like, it's not even going to be that much, and then shipping. For 15, you get in. And then after the Kickstarter's over, if you like the PDF and you like what you read, then you can go ahead and get the book at cost. Like, it seems like it's a perfect setup. And also what that does is, again, that takes a lot of the fulfillment and me having to pack up boxes and, do a ton of stuff in my office. That takes that off of my shoulders, and then I can start focusing on really getting the rest of the setting materials and the next expansions and stuff all out.
Absolutely. That makes sense. Cool. Sean, you got anything else, man?
Man, no, I can just say I'm excited to get my hands on this thing and really start to dig into it, because I've got some things going through my brain, and I would love to start getting some stuff out on the table. Eloy, thanks so much for producing this.
No, thank you for being so excited about it. It's one thing. I do a lot of games, and I like my games to kind of speak for themselves. So even if I'm not necessarily the best marketer, to get it into people's hands, the moment people get it in their hands and they read it, usually people love it. So I'm glad that you guys are kind of the example right there of, it's like I hand you a game and you guys are like, this is really awesome. And I'm like, yes, that's what I want. That's the response I wanted.
Well, I tell you, as Sean said, I read it and I've got ideas. I want to run this game. I want this at my table. So I'm going to back it because I need to have this at my table, right? That's just a fact, right? Does this become, in honesty, does it become the go-to game for everything? Maybe not. That's okay though. It's one more thing that I know that's going to work, right? I want to have this at the table. I think there's a lot that we can do with this thing. So this is really cool.
I'm going to use it for everything, Eloy. I don't know what the hell Brett's talking about. Screw that guy, man.
You lying bastard.
Camp Eloy. I love Eloy, and I love Pip System. Wow. Eloy, it's you've been with us for a little while now. We appreciate you coming on the show. Where do people, obviously the Kickstarter, we'll have a link in the show notes so people can go there and get nuts. Otherwise, where else can they find you online and interact with you and ask questions and do all kinds of stuff? I
would say you can go to thirdeyegames.net. We actually just updated the website this year, so we have a nice spanking new website. I don't know what sprankin is.
It must be that game designer talk, the game designer lingo.
I just assumed it's some hippie game designer. I don't know shit about that. All right,
I don't know.
Look that one up.
I'm going to start using that though, Brett.
I'd Urban Dictionary that, but I'm a little afraid of what I'll get.
Oh gosh,
Sprinkin new episode coming to you.
But yeah, so you can go to thirdeyegames.net or you can hit .com. It'll just transfer you. I'm at Twitter at Third Eye Games, Facebook /Third Eye Games. Pretty much just type in Third Eye Games in somewhere. Type in Third Eye Games on your computer somewhere, and you'll find me. I'm pretty easy. I'm also pretty responsive when it comes to Kickstarter comments and questions. I like to. I am a consumer myself, so I like to make sure that people understand what it is that they're getting. So if anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to ask them. I will answer them.
Perfect.
Excellent.
I think we're good, man.
That'll work out.
Yeah, that'll work. We'll make that happen. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, guys. That was a lot of fun.
Thanks, man.
I'm gonna come on your guys' show.